so good. Hi, how are you? Oh, gondola. The gondola. I hate sea life, so this is not working. Look at the deer. Look at the deer.
Okay, we're now recording.
All right, so I will call this meeting to order. It is 6:09. Just a couple things to remind everyone. One, when we speak, don't do what I did. Every time you're recognized to speak, you identify yourself position. So for example, Carrie Donaldson, chair, I call this meeting to order at 6:09. That way people who are on the phone, they know who's talking. So just make sure you're identifying yourself, name and position each time. Second thing, just to make sure that this meeting stays as smooth as possible. I know we're all, sort of working out the kinks. You have to be recognized by the chair before you can speak. That way we're not all talking over each other in a sort of Brady Bunch craziness. So that said, the first thing on the agenda is the director's report. So Clevell, I'd like to give you the floor so you can go ahead and walk us through it.
All right. Again, I am Clevell Roseborough, the library director. First of all, does everyone have a copy of the director's report?
I have a copy, but in moving my computer shut itself down. So just give me 2 seconds to reopen it.
Okay.
It's just, I've got it open on this old, slow computer. Considering the fact that I'm working from home now, I really should have this better set up. I apologize.
We're all learning on the fly.
I have a quick question. Can I?
Sorry, I'm flipping back and forth between. The chair recognizes Elena Testa.
Thank you, Elena Testa. My question is that link, which is new one, which was just shared, was it shared on the agenda? Or
Yeah. It was sent last night when I sent the updated agenda. I said in the email that there was new Zoom credentials on the agenda. So, yep, last night, about this time last night when I sent out that email, it said there was new Zoom credentials and it has the current ones that were posted on the town website.
Oh, but it's posted so people can get in. That's my question. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
So Karen?
Who, me?
No, me. It's working on it. Yeah, you can go ahead and start because I'm almost there.
All right, so subsequently, you read the introduction. As COVID-19, the pandemic is still affecting the operations of public libraries. Public libraries still are under the executive order of being non-essential departments. However, administrative directors are able to go to facilities as it relates to facilities, paying bills, checking in mail, and the routine day-to-day things of that nature. So I'm just gonna go down the item. If I say something that you need me to clarify, I'm not gonna read this verbatim. I'm just gonna touch on the items and just fill in the blanks that may or may not be in this documentation. So March the 8th, as you can see, State of Connecticut, CNN, Library Web, and Internet Service. So I wanna elaborate on this because we have a contract. The contract does not end until 2025. And the contract serves a dual purpose. On one end, and we have not been taking advantage of this, is each year we're required to complete a Form 471 at the end of a designated time period. Now, when we complete this form, whatever the annual cost that we spend on our web services, when we complete this form allow us to be reimbursed up to 30% of the costs that we spend on our web services. To my knowledge, after speaking with the state representative, well, since the last 4 years, we have never taken advantage of that. So we completed the form, we got it submitted. So this year, we will get that money back. So basically, whatever the sum total we spent as of the designated dates on web services monthly, we will get a reimbursement from the federal government. Also, we completed a form 470. This is a maintenance form. So we have never completed this form. And what this form enables to do is to get routine maintenance on the library web services. So what we discovered is the library's website, fiber optic, is high end. In fact, it's one of the most powerful ones that's currently available for public library services. However, it was wired the wrong way. So in essence, it was wired. The firewall is in perfect condition, but from there, instead of them grounding the services directly to computers, they decided, whoever it was, decided to run it Wi-Fi. This is the reason why our system keeps dropping down. This is the reason why the computers run slow. So if you recall, we were entertaining the possibilities of replacing the computers. I think we need to wait on that. So we put in the order for the maintenance team to come in and fix this problem. And we're going to see after that, where we're going to stand. The expectation is that it's going to be a 80% difference from what we've been experienced. Also, it would allow the Wi-Fi band to expand beyond the library parameters. So for instance, the library is closed. Some of our citizens don't have internet, but they have laptops, they have phones, and they want to tether to our Wi-Fi. After this, they can come sit in the parking lot, or maybe as far as Dunkin' Donuts down the street, and be able to use our services for those who do not have it available. Okay, and also, once this is done, then we'll be able to really pilot and roll out programming that allows us to do more virtual things. There's been a lot of things that public libraries have been doing in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Story times, so many things. But we haven't been able to do it until we fix this problem. So we've been doing some think tanks. We have a few ideas. I'm working on a few things. So hopefully when this is corrected, we'll be able to do some of those unique and innovative things. Okay. So if you move down March the 30th, Maria Berner, she's the state representative. She's the one that assisted us in completing these forms. So we really should applaud her and her efforts. She walked me through the process. I was not familiar with the process. She walked me through the process, and I will say, the form itself and requirements of what we need to do, I'm adding it to a standard operation procedure so that when things happen, everybody, including the board, the library staff, will know that these are things we need to do routinely so we don't miss out on funds. Moving down April the 16th, I don't know if you got the corrected version, but that should be Form 470, and that's the form reflective of the maintenance as it relates to our services. I need to make another point. So within my tenure and from what I've seen, normally when we have problems with our internet services, we would solicit help from one of the local technicians to come in the library and troubleshoot some of the problems. So in essence, had we read our policy, we would not have had to pay this person to come in and troubleshoot the maintenance problems, because we're paying for that in this contract, but we never utilize the forms. All right, everybody understand? Any questions about that? No? Okay. Now, March the 13th, library shift to post-COVID-19 operational status. Once again, the governor issued an executive order. As it relates to public libraries, we had to close our doors and non-essential employees had to stay home. There was a question about what were some of the things being done up to the point where we was actually closed to the public, but yet not, yet the workers were still working. So honestly, we got a lot of things done. We started to read our stacks, and we was in the process of changing the floor plan. When you come to the library and you go to the left and we have the new arrivals, we thought that the shelves right there really made the library congested, if you will. And we thought we, minimize that space, open it up, consolidate our stacks, that it would be better suited for more activities. We have things in the conference room because there's a restriction on how many people in the conference room. We thought by doing this, it will open up more space and allow us to have more floor activities when it's more people that are going to be in attendance. March 14th, yes, we update our tax exemption form, and that's just the form that allows us to be tax exempt when we acquire products and items for the library. March 16th, the Beacon Mechanical Services. So this relates to the issue that we had with the youth wing, if you will, of the library, problem with the air conditioning unit. Now, this was a very, it's very problematic trying to figure out what was going on. So our library uses what is called a Linux system. That's the system that was installed when the building was built. However, not too many vendors service that unit. So the problem up until now was my predecessors would solicit vendors to troubleshoot the unit, but they didn't have the license to order the parts. So when we finally found the vendor that could actually service the parts, when they came in, what they discovered is whoever, there was 2 vendors within the last year, so we don't know which vendor it was, but whoever came in and claimed they fixed the unit, they actually use for the sake of conversation, a generic part that did not work with the system. So what was happening is the part that they installed did not cooperate with the sensors that allow that part of the library for us to control the heat and climate of the room. So in essence, when it would come on and come off, what was happening was the wind this is how they explained it to me. The wind would either hit the sensor, which will allow the unit to come on, and then the wind would hit the sensor to allow it to come off. So to make a long story short, the parts were installed. The unit is working at full mass. It was a bit costly. It was a bit costly, around $7,000. However, this money would be reimbursed through the insurance claim. So we haven't been able to do the insurance claim as of yet, but as a result of the insurance say that they're considered non-essential during this time period, but they rest assured that once we submit those documentation, we will get that money back. We also, we didn't have a maintenance contract on our unit, so we did warrant the maintenance contract for the unit. What they also discovered that there are 4 cylinders that control designated areas of the library. And on those cylinders are belts. And these belts, rotate the cylinder for operation. I'm glad they came in because what they said was the belts are right now could possibly erode and pop. Now, if that would have happened, we would have been looking at a very major problem. So in other words, the whole system would have fell down, well, would collapsed, and we would have been looking at some serious money. So they came in due time. All right. Any questions about that?
If you have a question, okay, yeah, I was going to say just raise your hand and remember to identify yourself. Elena, please go ahead.
Yes, in the beginning you mentioned that the library is closed now as non-essential. When are you planning to start meetings, or when are you planning to start invite people in the building? As far as I know, till May 20th, we cannot gather in groups more than 5 people. So I just want to make sure you are aware of it.
Yeah. Yes. So you know what, this COVID-19 in terms of directions of what we can and cannot do for public library directors, like we're considered regional 3. It's been kind of confusing. So on one end, the governor sends a executive order, but then we fall under the umbrella of the state librarian and the Connecticut Library Association. And so what we've been told is that the expectation is the governor on the 30th is going to make a report if he's going to extend the executive order or if there's going to be some changes whereby the non-essential businesses like libraries can operate at a restricted level. And another thing worth mentioning is that we're still under the, as it relates to employees, stay at home. So yes, I don't know. I think we're just gonna have to wait. Like you say, safety is of essence. If we can assemble, I'm just gonna follow the direction. Everybody asks to return, but the one thing we don't want to do is get into a situation where we're not following guidelines as dictated by the governor or the state librarian. Does that answer your question?
All right, the chair recognizes Karen Ann.
Yeah, you just said the governor was going to make an announcement on the 30th. Is that the 30th of this month or next month?
This month. That's the expectation.
Okay.
We're making it. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the only thing that bothers me is the governor's report that said those of us in the quiet corner, I know we're not all the way there, but we're not expecting a peak in this part of the state till May 24th, which is 2 to 3 weeks after they're expecting the peak in the western part of the state.
Right.
So do you have any say in the fact that we're now hitting a peak, but the governor says, oh, it's okay because the main peak of the state's coming down?
Well, okay, because we're in the public sector, although that data may have some influence, as it relates to libraries or units in the public sector, our green light is more prone to, like, for example, it's further down in the report, we participated in a survey, a national survey, COVID-19 survey, and that survey is a collaborative initiative, if you will, with the Public Library Association, Department of Health, and I don't want to guess at this. Well, just to say that data has been it's been used to determine what we can do in terms of public libraries once the governor decides to allow us what we can do. That's my best answer. Okay. So can we move to the next item? All right. So drain and prevention services. Yes, so last July, the library installed a new water system. However, the drain gauge, now I'm not an engineer, but it was given off an order, And we called in a technician to look at it. And the technician actually showed me what was the problem. And it was the fact that the drain gauge we needed a drain gauge installed to allow the deposits to really to be drained out of the library. So they cleaned the system, sanitized it, and made some recommendations. These recommendations wasn't immediate, but the problem was fixed. Once again, that's an insurance claim, so the money we spent there, we will get it back. Okay. March 25th, once again, I just said something about that. That's the COVID-19 is a webinar to educate us on, as library directors, on how to think in terms of precaution as relates to staffing, to making preliminary decisions as relates to COVID-19. Okay, fire inspection citations. I think the last time we actually met physically, I expressed to the board that the fire marshal came out. We were cited at the time for a door hinge in the kitchen and a lot of the sporadically lights that are throughout the library, which supposed to work. So in essence, when we lose power during operational times, the generator should kick in and certain lights should come on as a result of fire code when we lose power. So when the fire marshal came in, a lot of the lights were not working, so we had to bring in a technician, and we actually had to replace all the lights, all the ballasts, and a few exit ballasts to meet compliance. So the fire marshal came in last Friday, and he cleared us. He cleared us for inspection, and now we're good with that. And once again, that's an insurance claim. Okay. Any questions about that?
Chair recognizes Elena. Hang on.
You got it. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's okay. When you say insurance claim, how many percent is going to be covered by insurance?
Well, here's the thing. From what I understand the policy, we do have a $1,000 deductible. So when you look at each claim, so there will be a base 1,000 deductible as it applies to each claims. Okay? Good? All right. So, okay, now we're moving down to H&S Carpet and Janitorial Services. So with the COVID-19, obviously a critical part of post-activity as it relates to buildings that serve the public and is open to the public is to ensure that the building are sanitized up to standard. And libraries had to go an extra mile because even excluding the COVID-19 pandemic, everybody knows books have molding and dust and etc. So prior to bringing in the vendor, we as a library staff, and I want to thank Missy Amquist, we did the best we could do to sanitize the library using lubricants and etc. But it was nowhere near the standards as mandated by the State Department of Health. So we brought in some professionals, and I'm gonna tell you, they did an excellent job. They started on a Friday, and they did not stop until Sunday. I can't wait to open this up to the public because I want you all to see our carpet. You can almost eat off the carpet now. And they actually sanitized the cushions. They did the books, the shelves, the computers, and once again, it was very costly. And I want to pause in just to make a valid point. So when we look at our budget and the allocation of our funds, we have what is called expenditure and routine costs. And these costs happen routinely. We know we got to pay the light bill. We know we got to pay the telephone bill, and et cetera. But then we have capital projects. And these things are the irregulars, the things that we did not anticipate. And sometimes they can be some big ticket items. So when you factor the COVID-19 and the impact that that it's having on everybody, in conjunction with the other problems we have with the roof and et cetera. So this explains why the expenditures for the month of March were extremely high. However, if you review the report, some of these items, well, just about all the items are going to be either reimbursed through insurance claim or through FEMA. So the money we spent to sanitize the library is on the FEMA list through the town. So to education on what that is so the government recognizes that the COVID-19 has caused municipal government to spend monies that we didn't have in our budget. So as a result of that, to relieve the burden, certain things have been placed on the FEMA list that hopefully will be credited back to us in the future. If I may, is it possible to defer to Erica? Erica, can you please? Yes.
Oh, the chair recognizes Erica.
Erica Wyszynski, First Select Woman. I just wanted to touch on that. So we are keeping track of expenses in the town hall, and Tish may be keeping track of yours. She's doing a really great job of that. And Robin is, they're working together, keeping track of all those expenses so that we can submit. Currently, the FEMA reimbursement rate is 75%. As you may know, the governor has written to the FEMA and to the president asking if 100% reimbursement is a possibility. So we're holding tight, waiting to hear a response on that, but just making sure that we track all of the expenses that are related to COVID-19. In a typical emergency, it doesn't look like this, and it's not always widespread across all of our departments. But yes, those cleanings would fall into that category. So Clavel, I would encourage you to reach out to Robin Campbell in the Selectman's office. You have? Okay, great. So we were discussing that as a staff today, and if you don't reach out to her, she may reach out to you, but they're keeping track. Sorry, they're keeping track of it between the finance office and Robin. So you should be all set there.
Yes.
If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Robin or Donna, our emergency management director.
Right. And otherwise not mentioned there. So another, so we have tried to compensate the library staff during this time. We have been doing that. I don't have it before me, but I will say it's either going to be late June or July. The monies that were paid to the library staff during the pandemic, during this period, we will qualify for reimbursement of those funds. Either late, well, I tell you what, at the end of this meeting tomorrow, I will send a email. I want to be precise in what I'm saying, but I would just say, in essence, we'll be reimbursed for the monies we paid our staff who we have not either furloughed or let go. Okay. All right. So moving right along here. All right. Yes. Post COVID-19 outreach needs requests. So Phil, the superintendent, reached out to me, and we all know that for those who attend public schools, the impact of the burden of having to try to teach and remotely has been very difficult challenge. So Phil asked me to look into a database called Hoopla, which will allow students access to a vast array of resources to assist them in their scholarly pursuits. So I spoke with the vendor, and it's too expensive. The library, we cannot afford it. However, Phil and I are waiting for a meeting with the vendor because there may be some way of us to give this, to implement this into our programming, if you will, at a lower cost. And once we get that, we just see what the possibilities are. I will say this: when I review these databases, so currently we purchase a vast array of DVDs and academic and non-academic materials. What this data, if we were to get away from just purchasing items directly and use this database, it will reduce the money we've been spending and acquiring to just buy individual volumes versus just paying the licenseship for this database, which will offer more. So once we get the vendor's information, what I'm going to do, even though it may be a good quote, what I would do is take the quote, take our spending habits and the bottom line, and just make a comparison of the benefits, and use data to present to the board to see, if we should adopt, a different platform and eliminate another. Okay. All right. So moving right along. Oh yeah. So I already spoke about where it says April the 9th, the Public Library Association COVID-19 report. Yes, we, Wellington Public Library, we participated. The data has not been released. There's an email went out 2 weeks ago saying hopefully we should get that information in 2 weeks. And so Karen, when you asked your question earlier, so when we get that data is going to describe the characteristics of what we can and cannot do and what we should or should not do. Okay. April 14th, self-explanatory. We received the treasurer's report. So we get the actual every month at a specific time. And, and then when I get out, forward it to the chair. Okay. Okay. April 22nd, another post-COVID-19 outreach initiative. So once again, I say there's a lot of things that we should be doing for our citizens, and some things we just can't. So we saw opportunity wherewith that we could provide a service, and actually we're going to roll it out this Monday. So the senior housing director reached out to the library and asked if there's some items, video movies that can be sent to the facility in bulk to enable the citizens to rotate the movies for their pleasure. So we created an account for the facility and created policies on restrictions. And we did keep in mind that, with COVID-19, we definitely don't want to be circulating materials back and forth due to contamination. So what we've done is we assimilated about 30 of our titles, and we put them in a bag. They have to sit for 15 days. We did that, and she will come pick them up. And when they're going to return, they'll be returned to the library. And once again, they will have to sit in a designated area. And I should say, we do have a designated area whereby we anticipate when this order is lifted and we allow items to be returned, we will have a curbside return of all items designated on a certain date based on people's last names, so we can keep control. And when those things are returned, they will be bagged. We will not do anything but sit them in the area for 15 days before we process them as being checked in. Okay. Okay, last item, required construction grant information session. And before I say something about this, I just want to make a comment here. So, the library, we look at our budget, for the last 4 years, it's been a 0% increase. And even with what we've been endowed in terms of the total sum number, when we did our report and we utilized the guidelines as designated by the Connecticut Library Association, we realized that our endowment has never been sufficient. Nevertheless, you know, we all know that most of our funding comes from local tax support, but all of our funding does not. We get a portion of our funding from the federal and a portion of the federal government and a portion of our funding from the state. Now, what dictates what we get from the federal or the state is dependent on us doing our annual Connecticut Library Association survey. You know, and we completed it this year, and it was submitted, and we should begin the data in terms of as it relates to our endowment soon. However, I'm gonna give you an example. Let's say the state and federal government, regardless of what the finance committee board decides, regardless of what they decide to do, let's say if they decide that they're going to give us a 10% increase supplementary to what the town is going to give us. Well, that money will come to a halt because what is printed in compliance is at the very minimum, the library staff has to be above the state minimum wage. Now, that might be an easy fix if we know we're going to get some more money, but I just want to highlight that. So we attended the webinar, construction seminar. That was the second time I've attended. I actually attended the physical meeting in Middleton. I'm going to write up a proposal and summary of the idea that we have for the construction grant. I will submit that to the board. And what I would ask is, you know, I give it, you know, Elena made a comment that we should have special committees, and I agree. And I think one committee that'd be useful is if we had a developmental committee for library projects as it relates to construction, programming, technology, and et cetera. Okay, so I can answer questions that everybody, if people have questions about that. But once again, I will, and actually I already started, I will write a summary of the ideas. It's just an idea. And I will submit that to the board in hopes that the board will, you know, create a committee so we can really look at the possibilities of what we can do with this grant funding. Okay. In closure, just basic priorities. I mean, we have a new board. We just commenced in December. When I look at the fact that the challenges that we're having to deal with as a board, especially in light of COVID-19, we really haven't had a chance to gain a real orientation of our roles, to really look at identifying a long-range plan or a short-term plan and objectives. So I would just hope that when we can assemble, whether if we have to continue doing this way, that we really just come together as a unit, assess and apprise the needs of the community, and just utilize best practice. I'm the library director. I love working here. I care about the community, and I really want the relevance of the library as it relates to meeting the needs of the community to rise. And I think that it's not just about the library, that, you know, when we look at what's going on, the town of Wellington and the other board members and stakeholders, I think we need to do a retreat, and we need to come to some senses and to some consensus and try to just create some priorities and get some things established. I mean, that's just my hope. I don't live in Wellington, so, you know, as much as I can say I care about the library, I know that my heart and mind is secular to the people who actually live here and are members to the library. So that resolves my report. If anybody have any questions, I am here to respond to them.
All right, Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Thank you, Cluvel. I see, Elena, you have a question. Elena, you have the floor.
Yes. I would like you to submit us, if it's possible, if you could email us information about all the repairs and all the work which was done, because in your report, I haven't seen any particular numbers, so we would have an idea what we're dealing with numbers. And in those numbers, it would be good if we would see how much you are expecting for insurance to cover it up. Thank you.
Absolutely. So when you so when the the library monthly actual report is released, so it would not have been on the report that was just released. I want to say the 14th. It'd be on the next report. So, and you're right. So what I would do, and I actually had visual. We was actually, Carrie knows this. We're actually doing video footage to highlight what was being done in Excel. But we ran into some problems with that. But we have a stellar intern, so we're going to get back on that. So yes, I will send you an itemized list of everything that was purchased in terms of parts. It will also highlight the cost of labor, and when I fill out the report for the claims, the claim application actually consolidates everything that you're saying. So I would definitely get that done. I would talk to Donna, bless her heart, she's very busy, but I would talk to Donna. Once she can schedule me to come in and get that done, I will send that information to Carrie and she will forward it to the board.
All right, thank you, Clevell. Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Again, I just want to remind everybody, when you speak, make sure you say your name and your position. I know it's weird. The Chair recognizes Elena.
Yes, I have another question.
Elena,
Elena Testa, Vice Chair.
There you go.
I have a little, as we are talking about conducting responsibilities of everybody on the board at the end. So I wanted to know, what's your understanding on the procedures of how we function with each other? Because there, as I understand, in according with whatever I read there, in the same laws, wherever we went, that if any member has any question or asking for update, US director is supposed to provide it for us. We don't have to conduct the meeting, but we have to know what's going on. So for me, it was very disappointing that I emailed you 3 requests with an information, including I wanted to know how many hours people were paid. I feel responsible, okay? Down, each one of us gave responsibility to understand what's going on in town. And due to this terrible situation, we still have that responsibility. So we cannot make decisions within 40 minutes or an hour. We have to have an understanding, deep understanding. So that's my question. Do you feel, because I wanted to clear up with your position. I serving on the Board of Education, I know clearly every question, whatever we ask, the information, the superintendent gets right back to us. What's your understanding of this particular your responsibility?
Yes. Well, I apologize that you feel that way. That was
not. Identify yourself first. Sorry.
I am Clevell Rosebird II, the library director in Wellington Public Library. Well, I apologize that you feel that way. I did see your emails. The reason why I didn't respond, because the email should be directed to the chair, not directed to me directly. Now, as it relates to your questions, one, I will respond to your questions. Now, in terms of me responding immediately or every day or whenever the questions may arise, that depends on the nature of the question and the severity of the question. What I will say, when you ask questions, when the question was posed as it relates to library personnel, how many hours, and I believe was compensation one of the variables? Wasn't? Okay. Oh, okay. Can Elena read?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Chair recognizes Elena Testa.
Yeah, Elena Testa, Vice Chair. My question was regarding the situation because of pandemic. I wanted to know exactly for how many hours everyone was compensated. That was a very legitimate question. And as for talking to Kerry, we have no connection with Kerry. So as I understand, we have connection only with you. And you, in order for us, do not even be in the position so we would qualify for any kind of meeting. If we talk directly with you, and you, if for example me or Kathy or anybody asked you a question, you can answer that question and share it with everybody on the board. We do not have to discuss that answer, but at least we all have that information. So I really would like to have my emails answered, because this is my responsibility. And I don't expect it to be undermined. So that's my only thing. There was no personal questions. I wanted to know this position was so many hours because the library was closed. So we were supposed to know how many hours those people were paid for any reasons.
All right. My name is Clevelle Roseborough, Director of Library Services. So I'm not at liberty to respond to that question because that question violates policy and regulation as it relates to the Department of Labor. I'm not able to release another library's personal information as to how they was compensated. Now, what
I did not say compensation.
Elena,
Okay,
you
sorry.
have the right to be.
I agree.
let me just for instance, I cannot release how many hours and how much a person was paid. What I can do and what I do when I do payroll is I offer the township a summary of hours done and a summary of what is paid. And just for a rule of thumb, the rate of pay can never go higher than what we've been allocated to pay monthly as it relates to the approval of the budget. Now, when you talk about this, I want you to really think about this from a different perspective. COVID-19 happens. There is no policy. There is no emergency standards how to react to, because it was a phenomenon. We didn't even know what to do. So when you think about, okay, how will we alter operations when this occurred? Nobody knew. The regional directors were going crazy because at that time the governor had not released it. We're non-essential or not, let alone some of our workers were, including myself, was worried about being contaminated. So what we did was in concert with what we told you to do, close the doors. You can work, oh, now you can't work. But in the meantime, we got a lot of things done. And what I would say is we're professionals. And honestly, when I heard the question, I really didn't know where it was coming from. And I didn't want to rely on my own opinion. I asked, I'd say, if someone asked you this question, what would you think? And I would just say that we're professionals. We do what we're supposed to do, and things got done.
All right, we are veering off of our agenda item, which was the director's report. I'm going to, unless you have something else specific, Clevelle, about the director's report, I'm going to move us on to the next agenda item. We can discuss communication issues at a different meeting under a different agenda item. But now let's move on to the second agenda item, which is looking at our budget to come up with a 0% increase from fiscal year 2019-2020 and an alternate budget, which is a 3% decrease from 2019-2020. So I will open the floor if anyone would like to start coming up with ideas. Oh, Carrie Donaldson, chair. Sorry, I keep forgetting. I recognize Elena.
Can attest, Vice Chair. So before we go to the budget, I have another question to Clevelle, which exactly I wanted to ask before, but it's better now regarding to the budget. I have another question about what is the information you submitted to us. If you remember during the last meeting, you told us how many hours each worker works. And what puzzled me is that 2 pages, those two which you just hired, the new girls, you gave each one of them by 16 hours, and they are working during only 2 days. If they would work full hours from morning till night, from opening till the closing, it would be 15 hours. You gave them 16 hours plus, as far as I know, they're doing school, so they were not able to work during the work hours. So this is my number one question. Then as for coming to the, well, that's okay. So this is my question. And then I have another question about the budget, which you submitted for the 2021. It's connected to that. I have a big question about how many hours did you give to those positions, because there are different amounts. For example, coming back to pages, in year 2018-2019, we budgeted $25,168. For this year, it was the same amount. But suddenly, when I saw the report which Kerry sent us, for some reason, there is 15,000. I called Donna. I asked if that number was correct. She said, yes, that's what you provided. So first of all, my first question, it was supposed to be 25,168. How come it got changed to 15,000? And how come that for the new year, we budgeted 19,968 for pages, which is less than 2 years ago, and while we increase the salaries? I think we have a total mess there, and maybe you don't have a mess, but the information which we have a total mess in that information. So I would like you to clarify.
Okay, hold on one second, please. So we'll take this one step at a time because there was a lot of things. So to parse it into pieces, the first question I believe Elena was asking, Carrie Donaldson, Chair, is an accounting of the 16 hours per week per high school page. So Clevelle, could you address that one first, please?
Yes. Well, one thing I want to say is it's not the budget that I submitted per se as Clevelle. It's the budget that we and the board together. I can't endorse the budget to be submitted. So it was submitted as a partnership with me and the board. Also, Donna, the numbers that you in this document, I worked with the town, with Donna, to come up with these numbers. So there is an error. So when we say it's not 16 hours per, when we talk about the high school students, it's not 16 hours per worker. That's one. So I'm gonna make that correction. And secondly, this is just a trajectory. If you have to keep in mind these new additions, they didn't work the whole year. We just hired them. They just started working with us this February. And when Carrie and I did the finalizations on this report, I want you to fact that we decided to take out the funds designated for cleaning. We also decided that, as it relates to me, that, in terms of the medical, my medical insurance could be used as well. Now, I have to say this. So we have a special fund. The money that we do not use rolls over. So we're kind of unique. Some departments, at the end of the year, money that is not used is taken away and put into the general fund. So if you factor in the reimbursements that we're going to get as relates to claims, as it relates to FEMA, if you factor in that now that we're closed, the money that we would normally spend for routine operational costs such as gas, lights, and I'm seeing it is at a very significant low. So when we look at the philosophy of what we have to do, the first thing that they said, a 0% budget plan. In philosophy, we had a 0% for the last 4 years. So in essence, we really don't have to do anything. We have a line item budget. Yes, when you look at our budget, it has line items, I should say. However, in a general sense, the town gives us a lump sum. We decide what we're going to do. So what I would suggest is if we just look at the sum, we do some basic math, 0%, we're used to that. If it's a negative 3%, we just do the math, multiply by 0.3, and we get a number. And if they decide to go one way or the other, we just want to have to do the best that we can with what we have. And we've been doing that.
Johnson, Chair. So before I recognize you, Elena, if I can summarize what you're suggesting, Clevelle, is because we're in a unique position that other town entities aren't, that we're able to shift money around. We're not necessarily beholden to a line by line item because we get a grant and that money does roll over. You're suggesting that we just come up with the number. So for example, our 0% increase would be $187,036 because that's what was approved for 2019. And then we also submit just another number that is 3% lower than that. And then we look and see how we can shift these into the line items that we already have. Am I understanding this correctly, Clevelle?
Yes, yes. Can you all see me? Because I'm having problems with can you still see me?
I can see you.
Okay. Yes. And this is not just my own conventional way of looking at it. I've had the discussion with Donna. I've had the discussion with our silos, and they all agree in principle, yes, that's exactly what it is. So we don't have to justify our budget by line items like other departments do. In fact, we already provide the criterion of how it's going to affect us. We already said that, hey, based on the census data and how it relates to who we are and our size, we are sufficient, we don't fall into compliance. So when they don't increase our budget, we fall out of compliance. We've been there, that's where we are. So that's the most important issue. And then the other thing is that we, as a mechanism, not able to offer our hardworking staff benefits, not even health benefits, but benefits towards retirement. So that's how it affects us. Now, when they talk about cuts, we're not going to necessarily, I don't think we won't fall in the problem of having to cut staff because, for instance, our salary line is already below standard. And if it's a 0%, we already operated at a 0% increase the last 4 years. But if you look at 3%, one would say, oh, we have to cut salaries. No, that means we have to cut acquisitions in other areas.
Okay, thank you. Elena.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I cannot agree with you at all. I hear very unprofessional talk about how to deal with budget. We are responsible for every line. We have decision to make for every line, and to say, oh, it was a mistake, 16 hours instead of 10 hours. We counted budget on the base of 16 hours for every one of those. If you made a mistake, apologize. Everybody makes a mistake, but not like we counted those money, and to put, oh, 20,000 less, another mistake. No, our budget is 194,000, and we need to be accountable for every line on that budget. I understand we can move money around. I perfectly understand it. But to say, oh, whatever, you know, if we leave it as it is, I counted, if we leave all our pages as they are, as we pay now, it's 38,000. It's not even 25,000, it's 38,000. I can't find that paper, so I could be a little bit off with that particular number. So I would appreciate, Clevelle, if you would be more careful. I would really appreciate it. And I personally would definitely like to see the hourly, how many hours each person works. So we could come out with a reality numbers, not a bulk numbers and then do something with that. We have to have a plan. We have to have agenda. Obviously, if we do not change anything in schedule of the employees, if we leave everything as it is, we're going to be failing. And to count on the money which were left from the previous years, or savings, that's not our goal. That's an emergency money. That's a money which we have to, we have no other way but deep in there. For now, there is no emergency. We can plan. We can count. That's, I think, I would like to have a more professional and more responsible position, and not like, oh, maybe 16 hours, or maybe 10 hours. No, that's a budget. So that's what I would. I'm sorry for the tone. I should be nicer. I apologize for that. I'm sorry. I'm just really upset that we do not take the budget question very seriously and responsible. Thank you.
All right, Elena, then Elena, you had a budget suggestion that was emailed out earlier. Has everybody had a chance to look at that budget suggestion made by Elena?
Yes.
Okay. Just to recap, sorry, Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Just to recap, sorry, I'm looking for it. So, sorry, everybody. I see.
Carrie, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
This is Joy, Secretary.
Hi, Joy.
Hi. I don't have a camera on my computer, so you don't see me, but I am here. I am under. Whatever.
Nick.
Yeah, that my son is Nick. He has homeschool classes, so I'm using his stuff. What budget are you talking about from Elena?
Let me look. I'm looking through my my email chains. I have Elena had sent out a suggestion with, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I'm looking for hold on. Oh, okay. Here, I have it again. I'm not sure how to share my screen. Let me see.
Carrie, I should be able to make it so that you can share.
Okay, great.
Down in the bottom, Erica Wyszynski, first selectwoman, down on the bottom of your screen.
Mm-hmm.
You share screen.
Share screen. Okay. All right.
Allowing you to.
So let me. Tell me when you can see it.
We cannot.
All right, hold on. Later. Oh no. Okay. I'm not sure how to do this.
Oh, actually, I think I just found it.
Did you? Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
Let me forward it to everybody again very quickly.
Carrie, if you forward it to me, I will share it on my screen and they can see it.
Excellent, thank you. Forward.
While we wait, may I make a comment?
The chair recognizes Clevell.
Cleveland Roseboro Library Director. In response to the recent remarks, once again, my suggestions do not reframe at all as being unprofessional about the budget. In fact, I want to reiterate, it's not my budget. We all met, we all reviewed the same document. I cannot endorse the library. I can endorse the budget that's submitted to the finance board. So one, if there was an error, it's an error that crossed everybody's eyes. And if there's a mistake, it's a mistake to be given. Now, I stand by what I said. I don't know if my tone depicts me being nonchalant about what you have identified, but that's not the case. In principle, we do have a special fund. In principle. And in principle, the budget that we submitted, I think it was like 11 point something percent increase. And where we are now is that the response that the finance board has said that 0% or the possibility of a negative 3% or 3% loss, if you will. So in philosophy of the budget, I stand by what I say. It is a line item budget. If you ask Donna or Erica, who's present, she would tell you we are giving it a lump sum. Although we do have line items, those line items there are designated to monitor when we spend certain things within those categories, so that when we reconcile our budget monthly, we'll know where the money was spent, and to help us do preliminary decision making to move forward for new ideas and etc. So in principle, I recognize there was an error, and in principle, I stand by what I say. And when we finish this report, and we finalize whatever we decide, it's going to result into a lump sum. That's my point.
All right, thank you. First, does everybody see Erica's sharing the screen so we can all take a look at the suggested shifts that Elena, Karen, did you want to sit? Were you raising your hand, Karen? Karen Ann? Okay, the chair recognizes Elena.
It's just a suggestion, so I don't want to stick with it. You asked for suggestion, so this is my suggestion. I did have a question here though about how Medicare works and for how many people we have to count Medicare, so I stated it there. I don't know why we have it there. We did not have it before. I just don't know. And they gave possible. So my whole idea to make it short, to see it, to simplify for everybody to understand, my suggestion is that we cut a little bit of working hours for the library. And we cut 2 new positions which were taken, which we did not have for a while. Plus, let's be real, we have no idea for how long the library will be closed and when the library will be open, for how long it will stay open. So we hope for the best, but it's just temporary, just for this year, just because we cannot make any increase. So if we cut all our schedules, we'll make from 12 to 5 every day except Saturday, and leave Saturday working hours, then we are really, and we actually increase the salary. So we would qualify, which probably, I don't know, but they may waive the requirement to increase the minimum salary this August by $12. I'm not sure, but let's count that they leave it as it is. Then I suggest to give $12 to each worker. So we would qualify for that increase. We would be ready for it already. And just cut a little bit of hours, which probably will not really be noticeable too much for a town. If everybody understands it's pandemic, it's better than to stay closed. So this way we will be functioning. And if the only other way to cut, except cutting 2 positions, 2 new high schoolers position, except cutting a little bit of hours, open hours, and cutting, and if we have to cut, the other place to cut, which with my understanding, is only from purchases of books and materials. So those are 3 avenues where I suggested to cut. And plus, it's really not insignificant, and we may not even have to touch. I don't understand. Maybe Clevell can explain us the line with Medicare and insurance. I have real problem understanding it. How it works if we have less workers, if that line decreases, if we can skip, like, for example, we did not have last year, no, 18-19, yes, last year, we did not have health insurance at all. So do we have to put it, that's my question.
Yes.
Thank you, Elena. All right, the chair recognizes Clevell.
Clevell Roseboro, Library Director. Yes, that line item is a contractual benefit that's tied in to the library director's position. So the library director contract is offered medical benefits. So that's where that money comes from. However, I waived it. I waived the insurance benefits. I didn't accept it. And because I already have medical insurance through the Department of Veterans.
Are we looking at the $10,508?
Yes, yes. So what we did last year, that's the money that we were able to transfer and use it elsewhere. I just told them I don't need it. And if you recall, when we were considering wage increases, well, when I recommended wage increases, that was the money I was recommending for the increases for Kathy, if you will, and Debbie Linares. The one thing is that it has to be waived by law every year. So that's why it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Clevell. Chair recognizes Elena.
Yeah, I don't want to take a lot of time. I just, if that's the case, then I think it's a very working situation with the numbers. Then all the decisions we'll have to take is cutting a little bit of hours and cutting 2 high schoolers position. And then we're going to be okay with 0% without dipping into any other additional funds, any other savings. That's the whole idea.
Thank you, Elena. The chair recognizes Erica.
Erica Wyszynski, First Selectwoman. I hear Clevell saying that he's waived his the insurance benefit. So you could remove that line from your budget. You wouldn't want to budget again if you knew you didn't need to provide. You would just need to recognize that Clevell was hired with a contract that allowed for benefits. So if he needed insurance benefits because of a change in situation, you would then have to come up with the money to provide that in the future. But this is a line item that you absolutely could cut, and I would recommend doing so. Just keep in mind, if you had multiple employees, you might have a placeholder in insurance, and that would cover the cost, the unexpected cost of someone suddenly coming onto your plan. But in this case, you might have to either make adjustments to your budget or use other funds outside of town funds in the event that Clevell needed insurance going into the new fiscal year. So, but otherwise, that makes complete sense to cut that line item. Thank you,
Erica. The chair recognizes Clevell.
Roseboro, the second library director. I'm actually glad Elena brought this up. So in light of what Erica has just mentioned, what I would do, I will write a affidavit after today's meeting, and I will endorse it stating that I hereby waive my medical benefits for the forthcoming year of, as relates to the fiscal 2021. And that way, if we do that, that kind of helps us allocate the funds without having to consider that. So I think that I do that. So in other words, based on the recommendation, what Erica said and what Elena said, we can remove that, and I will sign that and provide it to the chair tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Clevelle. That's very generous. So where does that leave us? That's $11,000 that I'm at a loss here. What we are we trying to come up with a new line by line? We're going through this thing and filling it out.
No, well,
The chair recognizes Clevelle.
all right, Clevelle Roseborough, the second library director. No, what it means is we remove that line item. Now, this is my recommendation. So if you look at where she's provided the each personnel and their hours, what I would do is divide that 11,000 something dollars, if you will, into the library staff to meet the threshold that she's recommending. Like she has $12, $12, $12. I think we need to come up with what that number is and see how close we can get to that number using the $11,000. Now, if we reach that number for us to be able to do that, whatever is left, we put it in books. That makes sense?
I think so.
Right.
Carrie Donaldson, Chair. I recognize Elena Testa.
Yeah, Elena Testa, Vice Chair. So that's what I suggested. I just will simplify it and understand it better. So if that's a regular budget, whatever you gave us, it consists from 3 parts. From 0901 administration, 0902 building, and 0903 programs. So my plan does not touch last 2, does not touch building and programs. It touches only first plan. So we really don't have to go through the programs. All we have to do, we just cut those positions, recount everything, because these numbers to start from, the numbers in administration are far off of reality. In either way, it's just not correct when it comes to the salaries, when it comes to the salaries with pages. So I would just leave it as a, I would leave it as, let's talk about it's my suggestion, no pushing, I'm suggesting this year, forget about 2021, whatever we did there, we just can forget about it because we still have to work with 0. Oh no, I'm wrong. Yeah, we take the new one, whatever you do, and we just recount. We are using this amount of hours. This amount is, we pay $12 every worker, so we would be in compliance with the requirement. And just recount first part, and last 2 left as it is. So it's really not that complicated. And if we do not need that insurance, then we don't even have to touch the books. So we have the same amount for books and for video. So it's 20,000, 15,000 for the books, and 5,000 for audio recordings, for CDs, for DVDs. So we don't touch it. But that's if suddenly we do need it, something to balance, that's really the only other place we can go. But if we do nothing with insurance, then it's great. Also, I would suggest there is another cut, which I suggested. There was a professional development, $800. In the first part, I mentioned it there. I think maybe $800 for professional development, if we skip that too. That would definitely protect us from dipping into books and audio recordings. I don't know if we can do it. It's up to the director, just my suggestion. So cut 2 positions, cut hours, and this year, no professional development, just this year. But we could put it in. It just will come from the books. That's it.
Thank you. Carrie Donaldson, Chair. I recognize Karen Ann. You have the floor.
Karen Ann Caldwell, board member. When I read Elena's suggestions, I noticed first off that the cut of hours, and I should have looked this up, and now I regret I didn't, what is the number of hours the library is open currently?
You know what? I wish I can give you an actual number. I don't know that right offhand, but I apologize. I don't know right offhand. I apologize.
Okay, it's just, I'm looking, for example, at the program coordinator that says here, full 31 hours at 12 hours is 372 a week. If, like where I work, full-time is 35, that's still a $2,500 a year cut in her pay. And, we may say, oh, that's not that much, but in the long run, that could be a fair amount if she needs that $2,500 at the end of the year. So I was just curious. Thank you.
All right. First, Elena, I saw that you, Carrie Donaldson, Chair. I recognize Elena.
Elena Testa, Vice Chair. So explaining with the cutting hours, which hours we worked, the library works now. The library, what was cut is Tuesday and Thursday late hours. It's really 6 hours were cut from Tuesday, 3 hours. On Tuesday, the library is working from 12 till 8, and Thursday from 12 to 8. So I suggested to cut it from 12 to 5. That's my suggestion. And I understand for the program, program coordinator, I understand that's a cut of hours, but that's we still have the position, so that's what the time. Everybody takes huge cuts. I understand it, and I don't want to look bad. I'm just trying to see how we can preserve it.
Cleaville, I see you, but first, Joy, did you want to say something?
Well, let's see. Am I unmuted? Yeah, I think I'm unmuted here. I have a couple suggestions for the budget that really don't touch salaries at all. I don't know if you would like me to express what they are, because I was on the board last year and we did the budget, and there's a couple things that we can take right off of here. Like, for instance, I know it's a small number, but this Joy Rona secretary, I'm sorry, where it's for the copier maintenance, we have $100 there. That can be taken off right away, because when Missy bought the new copier on January 31st of last year, she bought it with the plan that includes service, parts, and labor, drums, toner, and supplies. So we don't have any copier expenses as far as I understand. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can all hear you. I think if I can just pause you for 1 second, I think Cleaville wanted to mention, and then I'll come right back to you, Joy. Thank you.
Okay.
The chair recognizes Cleaville.
Cleaville Roseboro Library Director. First of all, I just want to commend us that we're working as a cohesive group. I like this. I hope we can continue this. I want everyone to keep in mind some of the things I've said earlier. For instance, the Form 71 for the monies that we pay, if you will, for our internet. We're going to get that money back. We're going to get we're going to get, let me make sure.
I have 1,500 is what I have listed for internet.
Okay, so we're going to get that back. That's $1,500 is some, anytime we can get any money back, that's good.
Yep. All right.
Secondly, we have not applied for, okay, I can't speak on this right now because it's not on the agenda. So all I'm gonna say is we have some things that we have been doing effectively that's going to help us with supplementary funds. So I think if we do what we're doing right now is good. I do want to say that we talk about, for example, the program manager, the program coordinator, how it's going to affect hours and et cetera. Okay, whatever we decide in terms of the budget, whatever the outcome is, I hear from a few people, we don't want to cut people pay and et cetera. Once I get the bottom line, I will implement the best interests of the board, and I will manage the library staff in a way with clear and precise guidelines that we fall within the borders of our decision. So for instance, as we relate to the program coordinator, I want to allow us to go past hours where we're going beyond what we envision. So all I want to say is those two key in principle. Whatever we decide, the boundaries of what that means, I will make sure that I implement a plan that thoroughly, I won't even rub the, I won't even straddle the fence with it. I make sure that I use precaution with whatever decisions whether it's personnel, facilities, or programming, to make sure that we are very prudent in our preliminary decisions. I just want to guarantee that.
All right.
I think I've demonstrated that, but just want to say it again.
Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Elena, I see you have something to say. First, let me go back to Joy so she can finish. Joy, before you go on, what I have so far between the $11,244 that Clevell has waived for health insurance, the $100 in copier maintenance, and the $1,500 in internet, I now have us at $12,844 in savings.
Okay, well, if we go back, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, if you go back up to the line item for office supplies, if you look back to 2018, we had $2,000 in there. We actually spent over $8,100, and I'm not exactly sure what we used that on, but they replenished some supplies. So that's why we put $8,000 in for 2019. But if you notice, we did not use that amount. We only used the $1,440, which is going back to what we had in 2018. So I took $6,000 off that $8,000.
Okay, so you reduced it back to the 2,000 level?
Right. Yeah, correct.
Okay, so that adds another 6,000 to our running total.
Yep.
All right.
And sorry for jumping back and forth on this. I'm going down to the books. I wasn't sure if we could still allocate the $15,000 in there, because I remember Clevell stating something about getting some free books.
Yes.
And that can be taken care off of that. And then for the newspapers and periodicals, we have $1,500 in there, which is what we had the last year. But we only spent $37.37 on that because in 2019, Chrissy weeded out a lot of the redundant magazine titles. We had 3, 4, 5, 6 copies of like the same fishing magazine or the same type of magazine. So she weeded them out to only include one title. So we actually don't even need the $1,500 there. We could probably put maybe, I don't know, $500 to be covered. So you could take $1,000 off of that too.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. So according to my never was very good in math, carried out on the board, I have just shy of 20,000 that we have saved so far. Elena, you had wanted to say something previously. The chair recognizes Elena.
Thank you, Elena Testa, Vice Chair. So my first comment, we did not buy books, waiting for a 10,000 value books through the whole year, through this last half a year. We cannot do it again. We have to have money, and it's not about getting, we have to, our library, as I understand, functions that used to function like this, that somebody comes, orders the book, asks the book which we don't have, and we can provide that book. We can buy that book, and not just get whatever. So that's my thinking. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just my thinking on this particular question. Then I would strongly suggest to recount all the numbers with salaries for the pages salaries and pages salaries. They are incorrect. They are not 19,000 here. It's an incorrect number. If we change nothing, if we do not cut those 2 positions, unfortunately, but if we do not do that, then we end up not 19,009, but as I remember, I can't find that number, but I think it's like 38,000 over. So the number here is not correct. That's my only point. We will have to recount it. Thank you.
All right, Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Thank you, Elena. The chair recognizes Clevell.
Clevell Roseboro, the second library director. I want to clarify, yes, you are wrong when you say that we did not acquire books in the last 6 months. I will provide an audit list. We've acquired at a minimum $6,000 worth of books. We only pause in responding to requisitions of our patrons through the month of December and February. And if the board can recall, the only reason why the budget was frozen in terms of acquiring books was simply because we was waiting for our actual budget to be reconciled. Because when we had the actual budget, when we first assembled to create our budget for the finance committee, those numbers were wrong. Because when we solicit the town to assist us in some of our fiscal matters, we, as the library, we use Mac QuickBooks, and the town did not have a Mac. So in that transition, which happened before I arrived here, those numbers the numbers weren't ready. And I kept saying, when people would say, well, there's money in this line, there's money in this line, I said, look, it appears that way, but it's not. And Donna expressed the same thing at the finance board, saying Clevell was right in telling you that. So that just got corrected in March. So the last week of February, I resumed to purchase of books. So I want to reiterate, no, we've purchased books. There's no point in time that we stopped purchasing books. Only between December and the first week of February when I clearly stated the reasons why. So we picked up that campaign. Along with that, the requisition for the money that we spent on the action items for repairs. I will also send the list of the book acquisitions that we have that in responding to our patrons' needs. And again, I'm glad Joe brought that up. Yes, we already sent the list to the Library of Congress of the titles that we want. I want to recognize Joe Amquist. He's leading that initiative. And the list in total, in terms of sum total of books that we acquire, is over $30,000 worth of books. And another thing we talk about, I'm glad Joy recommended that we cut the cost for periodicals, because the discussion now is, as it relates to library region, we're in Regional 3, is that the libraries that we come together and do share costs for electronic periodicals. So that way, we're not paying for a bundle of electronic periodicals on our own. We'll share the cost with the regional 3 library consortia to provide access to periodicals to our patrons. So we're going to save money there too. So I just want to clarify that.
Right. Thank you. Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Joy, were there other, I see you, Kathy. Were there other things before I?
I had one more, and I don't know how people are going to feel about this one, but I feel very strongly when I see a custodian making $20 an hour and a person who's been working at the library for long time making almost a little bit more than half that. So I have a suggestion. It can be tossed around. It doesn't have to be taken for granted. I also took out the custodian salary of the 68-64. And I also took out the $1,000 for the trash removal, which gave us an extra, what's that, $7,800, I think. And I was thinking, I was going to ask Clevell, how much garbage does the library get in a day, a week, etc.? Because if we can cut this budget down to provide enough money to keep what we have for costs and give everybody a slight raise, to make them in compliance for September when we have to have everybody at minimum wage. Can't everybody pitch in a little bit to help with the cost of cleaning, such as some person vacuum a week, another person take the trash to the dump on their way home at closing on a Saturday, or something like that. I don't know how to word that and to be politically correct, but that's what I was proposing. Yes, that is the last of my budget here. And I thought with all my cuts, I brought it down to just a 1.03% increase from last year's fiscal budget of the 194,636, which my budget would come down to 200,494. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you. And I appreciate everyone. I know this is crazy. So Joy, just, I'm going to have Kathy talk first and then Clevelle, just so we're all on the same page. The other two cuts and or suggestions, Joy, Carrie Donaldson, Chair, that Joy has proposed is the $1,000 for trash, taking the item out, and eliminating a position, the and seeing about dispersing those duties amongst the remaining staff. So
right.
the chair recognizes. Sorry?
I also, well, the reason why I took that out was I was also thinking that Clevelle had brought up a point where he was looking into some sort of service to help clean the bathrooms.
Right.
Am I right, Clevelle? I don't know.
Yes, he's shaking his head yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joy. Okay, the chair recognizes Kathy.
Okay, Kathy Ryan Goodman, Library Board member. I've been sort of accumulating questions and observations and thoughts. And the first is just to go back to a suggestion of Elena's earlier. I'm very much not in favor of cutting the hours down to just 12 to 5 on weekdays. I think that decreases access for most working families and individuals. So I would hope that we could find a way not to make those hours eliminated. Maybe there's other hours we could shift to if we needed to cut hours. Another thing, I like where you're thinking now, Joy, and I'm wondering, I mean, maybe it's not prudent to make a budget based on the fact that the building is actually closed right now, but I was wondering about these capital expenses, the building line items, and they're not fixed costs, right? I mean, are they based on budgets or estimates, or are they bids? Because I'm also wondering, with some alarm, why in 2018, 2019, there's overages in a lot of the line items. There's far more was spent on landscaping, building maintenance and inspection, copier maintenance, the telephone, electricity, propane. I mean, all of these, building custodial supply, way over what was budgeted. And so I guess it worries me that, even setting a budget that's low might be expended. And the third thing I just wanted to say quickly is I'm confused about where we're going with numbers. If I'm doing my math correctly, we are way past making a 3% decrease with our over $20,000 worth of suggestions. I think we're, eight-tupling it. Maybe this is wrong and I'm doing the math off the wrong columns, but I think we've more than gotten to where we need to either freeze or decrease at 3%. And that's all. I'll go mute.
Thank you, Kathy. Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Thank you, Kathy. The chair recognizes Clevelle.
Clevelle Roseboro, Library Director. Kathy, that's why I was saying in the beginning that, before we even go into structuring line items, that the first thing we should do is just do the math at top. And once we already know what 0% is because that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years. And we just do the math of what is a reduction of that number. And once we have that, that's what I was trying to say. Once we have that, because what we're doing now is we're actually, what Kathy is alluding to, is we're reducing our budget right now, we're looking at an 8%. And we don't have to do all that. That's what I was trying to say. That's not necessary. We don't have to do that right now. With all the cuts, we're now at negative 8% of all these cuts. Also, the hours, what I do know is the hours that we have now, and once again, I wish I knew the exact number, but I do remember in our first finance board hearing, we provided the data that we were shy opening 4 hours to meet this standard as a public library. So if we were to cut, we're going to move further away. So in actuality, with the current hours, we're 4 hours short in meeting the standard for operational hours based on the census report and the population that we have in Wellington. So, but I will say this, I truly believe that we can maintain the same hours that we have. I will say because we round the bases. I'm switching topics. We round the bases when we talked about making cuts to certain positions, etc. We already had that discussion. What I will say is, logistically, we're in a good place. I'm rewriting the job descriptions. That was put on a halt when we decided to change the position, but we didn't agree on the promotions, so we didn't get that. So I will say we're still going to change positions, but along with those positions, I was going to add an element reflective of people doing certain duties, including myself. I'm not going to have the staff do anything that I'm not going to do as a director. So yes, we can coordinate a way where we can get certain things done and keep the library clean as we understand the times that we're in. So we have a primary plan that incorporates us doing more internally amongst the library staff along those lines. And then we have a secondary plan, provided we get some supplementary funds that allow us not so much to stop doing it, but if we need to do it at a better or more professional level beyond our capabilities, we'll revisit that if we get some supplementary funds.
All right, thank you. Okay, I see Elena and Kathy Ann. I just want to make one thing. I'm not a mathy person. Can somebody give me a number? Obviously, I see what a 0% increase is. Can someone give me what the number is, a 3% decrease? How much would we have to decrease? Kathy Ann?
Yeah, I've been running the numbers all the way along as we've been doing this. It's why I went into the other room to get a plug for my phone so I could do this. And if we're dealing with the 194,636, I have as total expenses on last year's budget. Is that the number we're dealing with?
194,636?
Yeah.
Yes.
Then our cut has to be $5,839.
That's it.
Which really, and looking at everything that Joy just suggested, I've got us down at 186,646, which is more like a 6% decrease. And I think the numbers look good, and I know there's a lot more discussion, but my husband just came out of his office wondering where the heck his dinner is because this meeting has gone an hour and 40 minutes. So I got to cut out of here.
Thank you, Kathy Ann.
Okay.
Thank
You guys
Kathy.
have a good night, and just keep me abreast of what happens.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you. All right, Carrie Donaldson, Chair. I recognize Elena.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to make, while Karen Ann is here, oh, she's left, okay. I wanted to encourage you, please, recount the numbers with pages. The numbers which are provided in this report are totally off. I'm talking about 20,000 difference. So by cutting, oh, Karen Ann, I'm very happy you came back. I hope you listen to me. Whatever is provided in this budget, you have to know, first of all, the correct amount of hours those people work. The hours which were provided are not correct. But if we take correct numbers, even whatever, I found out the correct numbers, and they are actually for 2 pages, they are correct now as they are as in my form, but they are almost 20,000 lower. There is a mistake in the calculations. They are not 19,000 and not 15,000, and they're not 25,000. That's why we could, if we do not recount from the scratch everything with salaries, we will never be in the real number. We will be 20,000 off. So that's my whole point. What I would like Clevell to provide, as far as I understand now, if you, Clevell, if you see the numbers which I found on my own, that one, Cassie has 13 hours, Jen 20 hours, and 2 others, 2 girls they work by 10 hours. We're still off, totally off. So please, my suggestion, so I wouldn't take that much time, I know you have to go. My suggestion would be to take all numbers home, to leave this meeting knowing exactly how many hours each position works. Without having that number, we cannot move forward. And then count ourselves. That's all what I need, because we have to fix it.
Yes.
Right. Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Thank you, Elena. Kathy Ann, before you have to go, I recognize you. Hold on, I gotta unmute you. Oh, I can't unmute you.
Okay,
There we
I had unmuted and stopped the video before I actually left. So Karen Ann Caldwell, board member. I'm questioning who Elena is talking about when she says pages. I'm looking at Kathy, Jen, and these 2 high school students. Is that who's considered pages?
Yes.
And the two high school students are working 10 hours a week?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And Kathy works 13 and Jen works 20. Is that normal without cutting it down to 31,000?
That's correct.
Okay, because I ran all these numbers about half an hour ago, and I see that total comes out to $26,832 a year.
Oh.
So I'm just saying, I'm not sure where Elena got 38,000 from. I'd like to see where she actually got the numbers from, because I looked at her handwritten stuff and I didn't follow what she was doing. So Elena, if at some point you could clarify where you got that number from, because my numbers just don't match.
All right.
So that's all I'm asking for. And I really do have to go.
Thank you, Kathy Ann.
Okay, bye.
All right. Elena, do you want to, oh, Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Elena, would you like to explain how you got your numbers?
Yeah, I'm telling you, 38 hours, I can't find that paper,
No.
but I don't think, but I am saying as it is, but I know that those numbers are very much off. So let's check the 19,000 and also I would like to comment. Yeah, I would like to comment about the trash removal. I don't think we can do it. I think, first of all, I know why the trash, why the cleaning services are more expensive, because there are more strengths involved. It's an unpleasant job. It's a physically much more challenging job. That's why it is paid more. So, but trash removal, I think it could take some people off if we will ask them to throw out the garbage. That's already a serious thing. I would not touch the trash removal for sure, and I would not touch the custodian until we have an exact situation, because exact number for somebody whom we can plug right in instead. Otherwise, how can we open the library without the cleaning service? So I would suggest do not touch custodian until we have exact number and exact person or company who is willing to do it. Then we can switch it. I understand it, but trash removal, I wouldn't do it.
All right, Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Thank you, Elena. The Chair recognizes Clevell.
Clevell Roseboro, Library Director. Now I think I've solved the mystery. Carrie, if you recall, when the last time the library board met, we had decided on a budget proposal with the hours that Elena is referring to. But you remember the interval before we actually submitted it to the town, we corrected those numbers. So, Elena, in essence, you're right with what you have, but you don't have the correct form. Because you have that the pages are at 15 hours. Is that correct, Elena?
Pages, 16 hours each.
So that's wrong. It's 10. So what I need to do is get you the correct form. Now I see why your data is off, because
I already figured, I counted right
Hang
now.
on 1 second.
Oh,
Cleo,
sorry.
are you finished?
yes. So the last report that we submitted, the final report you to finance board has it at 10 hours. So I see what the problem is. We need to get Elena the correct proposal, because the pages are at 10 hours.
Carrie Donaldson, Chair, I recognize Elena.
Yeah, I just made the calculations for Cassie 13 hours, for Jen 20 hours, and 2 pages, 2 high schoolers by 10 hours. Total amount of hours 53. If we take 53 hours a week, multiply on 12 hour, on $12 an hour, so we would be in compliance with the requirement. And then we multiply it on 52 weeks. The result comes out $33,072. $33,072, not 19. That's what I'm saying. We will have to correct that number.
All right.
Okay. Carrie Donaldson, board. So in the interest of moving this along, I understand that for a 3% cut, we need to find $5,000 in cuts. We found a number of those places just in the director alone,
That's it.
giving up his health insurance. That's 11,000 right there. What I would suggest we do is we could, Clevelle, if you could give us an updated hourly per employee, how many hours per week, what our pay rate was that we were proposing, because I know it wasn't $12 across the board for every employee. So if you could give us each current employee's weekly pay hours or weekly worked hours, what their new salary was going to be under this new budget, I think we would be in a better position to move forward from there. And we can't make cuts on what we don't know. The chair recognizes Clevelle.
And as a priority, like you said, if we cut the medical benefits, we're there. And so in addition, what you're asking me to do, as well as what Atlanta requested, I will write that letter as an appendix to our budget that I'm waiving my benefits. So I'll do that as well. Okay?
Thank you. Carrie Donaldson, Chair. So again, so if we can, and if you could give us what the proposed new payment salary was going to be, I think that would be beneficial. I think that the majority of the board does not want to cut library hours. The majority of the board does not want to cut positions. We definitely don't want to cut salary. So let's get that taken care of first, and then we can see where we are in terms of having to make other cuts. Elena, the chair recognizes Elena.
Elena Testa, Vice Chair. During your speech, I just remembered I made a remark and I forgot to ask you, Mr. Rosborough, while you were talking about it, about the program coordinator, and maybe you mentioned somebody else, that you, as I understood, you keep paying overtime. That's what I understood?
No.
You said that instead of 30, that you never found that you give them extra hours?
No.
Because I don't think overtime is acceptable for the library, period. We are library.
That's not what I said.
Okay. The Carrie Donaldson board, I recognize Clevelle Roseborough.
Yes, Clevelle Roseboro, the second library director. No, that's not what I said at all. I said the contrary. I said I will make sure that we do not go overtime, and that I will take the decisions that we subscribe to and implement in the way that I would make sure that with precaution that we stay within the borders that we have in place. So that's the contrary. No, I will not continue doing that.
Okay, thank you. Again, so Clevelle, if we can have hours, projected hours, the pay increase that we had hoped for,
Yeah.
then we can take a look at this. Maybe it's not as horrible and bad as we thought. Joy certainly came up with a number of excellent suggestions, places that we could cut. So I think this is good. I think we can do this without cutting hours, without cutting library hours, without reducing salary. So let's wait for those numbers. And then unfortunately we'll have to meet again about the budget, and soon. All right, Elena, I saw you first. The chair recognizes Elena.
Yeah, Elena Testa, Vice Chair. I also, as we are closing the meeting, coming close to the end, I would like to ask, I think it's very important for our library to start working on policies and bylaws. So
Yes.
I would like to ask you to put it during the, as I asked you previously in the email, if we could please put it in the next meeting agenda. I think because that's our very weak spot. And if we can maybe appoint policy committee, or we can work all together, whoever wants to put the implementation in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Donaldson, Chair. The chair recognizes Clevelle.
I concur. The last comments made by Elena, I agree with that. I want to say that, so I'm not going to wait to get all the reports. As I complete each item, I will just forward it upon completion. I recognize that we're dealing with a timeline. So you can expect me to be submitting responses as relate to what you are asking, the board is asking me to start immediately as early as tomorrow. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else? The Carrie Donaldson Chair. The chair recognizes Elena.
Elena Testa, Vice Chair. I also would like to ask, I was very disappointed over from the moment when the library closed and there was pandemic and there was no contact, no way to get any information, no way to ask any question, and that's very wrong. The library will be failed if we continue that way. We have to find a way how we can socialize safely. And Mr. Rosborough, I would appreciate it if, for example, if you felt that was incorrect for me to ask that particular question, which is normally, that's okay. I would appreciate if you would still answer. Don't forget, anyone on the library board has a right to ask you a question, and you are obligated to provide us information, because that's our job. No, that's our job to be on top of the information. If you feel it is personal, you just reply it to us that it is personal and I don't feel comfortable. How can I answer you differently? Can I give you not personal? Can I give you all common overall amount of hours? So, but there has to be some kind of communication, not cutting off. So I would like it to be changed. I would like us to start holding meetings, because there are lots of questions to be decided. We're behind on many questions. I would really appreciate if we would start working, because I think this format of meeting is working perfectly, and Zoom is available for us, and I guess people can even connect, and it's video recorded. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, Carrie Donaldson, Chair. Thank you, Elena. The chair recognizes Clevelle.
Library Director Clevelle Roseboro II. I want people to keep in mind that when we're dealing with a crisis, as it relates to, as an officer, the library director, I'm not permitted at times to make certain statements until, if it's a legislative issue, which this was, until the governor or the state library has permitted us to say certain things. There's just something I cannot say. And lastly, we talking about communications and nobody knew what was going on. I would beg to differ. Our library website, Joe is doing a real good job as we find out information, we put it on our website. Kathy puts it on Facebook, and people call me. What I think we probably should do, as it relates to Carrie and I stay in contact. I'm not just making decisions on my own. I keep her abreast, and as far as the bylaws, unless we change it, I don't mind if we change it. The library board can change the bylaw. I am supposed to communicate to the chair. Any questions that she gave me, I went and asked. I don't think I've not answered questions that came directly from the chair. And in between those intervals, when we are not meeting, if I get a question during that time, if it's a crisis, now I'm not gonna sit and not respond to it. But if I get to question, the way it's designed right now, I respond to those questions when we have a meeting. I do my director's report, and the questions as they come in, I'll respond to them. But I don't want you to feel that you was being avoided. That's not what was going on. There was some crisis issues that I had to deal with, contrary to your questions, that were of a high priority, and that's all it is. So, you know what? I would just say this: moving forward, I'll do a better job with that. I will respond immediately to acknowledge that I see this, I reviewed it. I will get back to you and I'll follow up with you. So, I'll do that. And I think that's what you're saying. Okay.
Thank you.
Carrie Donaldson, Chair, thank you. Any last comments? All right, I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Several people second. So we will vote on adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. All right, motion passes. We will meet soon to finalize the budget and begin moving forward with policy things.